I know who has her and where she is. These chilling words, allegedly spoken by Misty Crosland's cousin during a drug-fueled night, represent one of many shocking twists in the Haley Cummings disappearance. But was it a genuine confession or another dead end? In this video, I'll share the details around February 9, 2009, contrasting Misty's official account against investigators' reconstruction, the evidence, contradictions, and the suspicious marriage that followed just weeks later all point to hidden truths. Between these competing versions lies the answer to what happened to this little girl. As we unravel each clue, I want you to consider which timeline reveals Haley's true fate. Join me for another ride through the strange, odd, and mysterious here at Odd Mystery Stories. Have you ever wondered how someone's story can change so many times, yet they still expect to be believed? That's exactly what happened to Misty Crosland. At just 17 years old, Misty found herself at the center of one of Florida's most baffling missing persons cases. As Ronald Cummings' girlfriend, she was the last person to see little Haley before she vanished on February 9, 2009, while Ronald was working the night shift. According to Misty's initial account, the evening unfolded routinely. She put Haley and her 3-year-old brother Junior to bed around 8:15 in the quiet mobile home, then spent the night doing laundry and watching TV before turning in herself at around 10 p.m. But everything changed around 3 a.m. when Misty claims she woke up to use the bathroom. In the shadowy darkness of the small trailer, she discovered something terrifying. Haley's bed was empty, and the back door stood ajar, propped open with a cinder block, the cool night air seeping into the home. The details of this account will certainly come into question. When Ronald returned from his night shift, panic erupted throughout the household. A 911 call was placed at 3:27 a.m. Immediately, Misty's statements raised concerns. During that crucial call, she stumbled over basic details about what Haley was wearing and when she went to bed.
You said your back door was wide open?
Yeah, it was brick. Like a brick on the floor. Like when I went to sleep, the door was not like that.
What is the brick?
It's on the deck, on the stairs. Like we have like a walkway.
And there was a brick laying there?
Yes, it's still there.
Was your back door locked, do you know?
Yes, but that's what always stays locked.
Man, I need somebody to get here now. I just got home from work. My 5-year-old daughter is gone. I need somebody to be here now. I'm telling you.
Listen to me. We got 2 officers.
If I find whoever has my daughter before y'all do, I'm killing them. I don't care. I'll spend the rest of my life in prison. I'm telling you, you can put it on record, and I don't care.
Tell him we got him coming. He needs to try to calm down a little bit, okay? The officers are going to come out there and do what they can. We can't have him screaming and yelling at the officers whenever they get there, okay?
Got better people to talk to than the fucking motherfucker that ain't coming.
I don't know what she was wearing, Misty told the dispatcher, her voice shaking. Moments later, she claimed Haley had been dressed in pajamas. In later interviews, her story changed again. Now Haley had been wearing a pink Hannah Montana shirt, which investigators later discovered sitting suspiciously atop a laundry pile right by the back door. Investigators noted several troubling inconsistencies as the case unfolded. Despite knowing Haley for only a few months, Misty referred to her as, quote, our daughter, multiple times when speaking to dispatchers. Her account of sleeping arrangements shifted dramatically, first claiming both children were in the king-sized bed with her, then later stating Haley was on a separate mattress inside the room. Even her reason for getting up changed from needing a bathroom break to getting a drink of water. Perhaps the most revealing was Misty's confident assertion about the polygraph tests. She said, quote, I passed the polygraph. Then she said, I don't know what happened to Haley. Her attorney suggested Misty should undergo hypnosis to recover memories, implying this was why her story contained contradictions. Misty was fervently opposed to submitting to hypnosis. The reality painted a completely different picture. Investigators later revealed that Misty had failed multiple polygraph tests, detecting what they described as, quote, huge deception in her responses. She also failed voice stress tests designed to identify deception. Lead Detective John Merchant expressed growing frustration, noting, quote, she has led us everywhere, and that her constantly changing narrative made it nearly impossible to trust anything she said. One investigator summarized the problem bluntly. Her inconsistencies remain, adding that Misty repeatedly led them down false trails. What really happened in that small mobile home in Satsuma, Florida? If Misty's account contains so many contradictions and falsehoods, what do investigators believe actually occurred on the night Haley disappeared? While Misty's stories kept changing, the physical evidence at the scene remained stubbornly consistent. It painted a picture that made investigators' blood run cold. Imagine a small mobile home where a child supposedly vanishes without a sound. Yet, the very evidence tells a completely different story than what Misty presented. The cramped trailer offered nowhere to hide and very little room to maneuver. Beds sat just 4 feet from each other in the tight living space, making the logistics of Misty's claimed abduction immediately suspicious. How could an intruder enter this confined space, locate Haley in complete darkness, and remove her without waking anyone? The scenario defied basic reality in such close quarters. During his work shift that night, Ronald Cummings made 20 separate phone calls to Misty, all unanswered. These ignored calls created the first major crack in her, quote, home at all night narrative. If she was doing laundry and watching TV as claimed, why wasn't she picking up the phone? One detective later questioned. Even more damning was the testimony from Misty's own brother. Tommy Croslin later told investigators he visited the mobile home around 9:45 p.m. The house stood completely dark, seemingly empty, with no one responding to his repeated knocks. The trailer appeared entirely vacant during the exact hours Misty insisted she was inside caring for the children. Ronald Jr. provided investigators with a chilling account. A 3-year-old witness too young to grasp what he was revealing. Unlike Misty's constantly shifting story, the little boy consistently described seeing, quote, a man in black take his sister away while Misty was actually present in his bed. This statement placed Misty right there in the room where Haley disappeared, contradicting her later implications of absence. Outside the trailer, bloodhounds tracked Haley's scent from the back door directly to the nearby St. Johns River, where the trail abruptly ended. This wasn't random wandering. This was a direct path to the water deep enough to conceal evidence permanently. The cinder block supposedly used to prop open the back door raised further questions. Investigators discovered it had previously been partially buried near a water tank near the home. This wasn't something a stranger would likely know about or take the time to dig up. Only someone familiar with the property would recognize and use this detail. Not only to mention that the outer screen door was propped open, but the inner door would have been closed. Both doors had automatic closing springs, making it impossible for the inner door to be left wide open, as Misty had claimed. By August 2009, 6 months into their work, authorities had seen enough to make a formal announcement that shattered Misty's entire narrative. They did not believe a stranger had abducted Haley Cummings. The physical evidence at the scene directly contradicts her sketchy account of that evening, one detective stated firmly. The multiple witness statements, timeline inconsistencies, and bloodhound tracking all pointed away from Misty's version of the events. The mystery of that February night ultimately centered on a disturbing question. If phone records showed Misty wasn't answering calls, if her own brother found the house empty, if physical evidence contradicted her story, and if investigators formally rejected her abduction claim, where was Misty Croslin during those crucial hours? And what was she really doing while a 5-year-old girl disappeared without a trace? While all eyes focused on Misty's suspicious timeline, A kindergartner with a bright smile became reduced to just yet another face on a missing poster. Behind the headlines and search parties was a real child, a 5-year-old girl who loved playing dress-up and mac and cheese, living with a medical condition that made her uniquely vulnerable. Haley Ann Marie Cummings was a spirited kindergartner with blonde curls that bounced when she played and big brown eyes that crinkled at the corners when she giggled. Standing barely 3 feet tall, her tiny frame of 39 pounds revealed the effects of Turner syndrome, a chromosomal condition affecting her growth and development. This rare genetic disorder required regular medical treatments that records show had been neglected in the months before she vanished. Despite these challenges, Haley approached life with infectious enthusiasm, experimenting with her mother's makeup and proudly showing off how she could write her own name in wobbly kindergarten letters. She was a sweet little girl, her paternal grandmother, Teresa Neves, recalled, voice softening. Always happy, always smiling. Haley's preschool teachers remembered a curious child who asked endless questions and beamed with pride at new discoveries. Beneath this innocent exterior lay a complicated family web. Ronald Cummings and Crystal Sheffield had fought a bitter custody battle, with Ronald eventually gaining full custody of both Haley and her younger brother, Junior, after Crystal's substance abuse issues severely limited her visitation rights. Ronald himself carried a troubled past with arrests for drug possession and domestic incidents, yet those close to the family consistently described his fierce protectiveness towards his children, especially Haley, quote, his princess. He worked night shifts at a local plant to support his family, often leaving the children with various family members or girlfriends. Home for Haley was a cramped, aging, double-wide trailer on Green Lane in rural Satsuma, Florida, a community of fewer than 6,000 residents. The isolated location along the St. Johns River meant few neighbors and even fewer witnesses to the household's activities. Inside those thin walls, one detail about Haley would later trouble investigators. The little girl was terrified of darkness. She insisted on sleeping with a nightlight, becoming visibly distressed when left alone in dark rooms, making the official story of her wandering around that night particularly implausible to those familiar with her habits. It was at Haley's bus stop that Ronald met Misty Crosland in late 2008. Their relationship progressed at an alarming speed within weeks. The teenage Misty moved from occasional babysitter to live-in girlfriend with full responsibility for the children during Ronald's night shifts, despite having no child care experience or even a high school diploma. The home situation deteriorated dramatically in the days before Haley vanished. According to multiple witnesses, Misty had abruptly left after a heated argument with Ronald the weekend before, disappearing for 3 days on what a friend called a drug and alcohol bender. She returned to the trailer just hours before Ronald's night shift on February 9th, the very night Haley would disappear. The drug and alcohol bender Misty reportedly went on before Haley's disappearance might have just been the beginning. What if those 3 days away from the trailer extended right through that fateful night? 7 months after Haley vanished, investigators began pursuing a startling new theory that would completely upend the timeline of events. In September of 2009, police received multiple tips pointing to an unexpected scenario. Misty wasn't home caring for the children at all. Instead, witnesses claimed she was miles away at a drug party in Palatka. This wasn't just a casual gathering. It was reportedly a night of heavy drug use that might explain why Misty couldn't keep her story straight when questioned by the police. More disturbingly, some witnesses alleged Haley herself was at this party. Picture a 5-year-old tired, already afraid of the dark, surrounded by intoxicated adults in an unfamiliar house. According to these accounts, Haley accidentally ingested drugs at the gathering, possibly resulting in an overdose. In a panic, partygoers allegedly disposed of her body rather than face the consequences. She was put into the trunk of a car and driven to a nearby pond, one witness claimed, according to case documents. This tip was compelling enough that investigators took the extraordinary step of draining an entire pond in September of 2009. Despite this massive effort, they found nothing connected to Haley. Yet, authorities continued pursuing the theory. The phone records from that night tell their own story. Ronald called Misty's cell phone 20 times during his shift without receiving any answer. For someone claiming to be home watching TV and doing laundry, this prolonged silence raises serious questions. Tommy Croslin, Misty's brother, initially supported her story by saying he visited the trailer that evening and smoked marijuana with her on the porch. This seemingly verified Misty's presence at the home, until Tommy suddenly changed his account. In a stunning reversal, he later admitted that he went to check on his sister at 9:45 p.m. The trailer was completely dark and no one answered the door. This wasn't just Tommy's experience. Multiple people reported being unable to reach Misty throughout the evening. The darkened trailer, unanswered door, and 20 missed calls paint a picture of an empty home, exactly when 2 young children were supposedly being supervised there. By August of 2009, investigators made a pivotal announcement that permanently altered the trajectory of the case. They had acquired physical evidence directly contradicting Misty's accounts of her activities that night. While they didn't publicly detail this evidence, the implication was clear. Misty wasn't where she claimed to be when Haley disappeared. This revelation transformed the foundation of the investigation. No longer was this potentially a case of stranger entering the home and abducting the child while a teenager slept nearby. Instead, investigators began seriously considering that Haley had never been in that trailer at all when Ronald called home. The party theory offers a devastating explanation for many of the inconsistencies in Misty's statements. Perhaps most telling was her refusal to undergo hypnosis that might have clarified her memories of that night, possibly because there were no memories of being at home to recover. With Misty's refusal to undergo hypnosis raising red flags for investigators, Ronald Cummings made a decision so baffling it left the entire community speechless. Instead of demanding answers from the last person to see his daughter, he put a ring on her finger. Just 33 days after Haley vanished, while search teams were still combing through the wooded areas and dragging nearby waterways, Ronald and Misty exchanged vows in a hastily arranged backyard ceremony on March 12, 2009. In a move that stunned everyone following the case, the wedding photos tell a story more disturbing than romantic. Misty, barely 17, wore a simple white sundress, while Ronald, 25, stood beside her in casual attire. They smiled for the cameras as if celebrating during what should have been the most devastating period of a father's life. The timing was so jarring that media outlets across the country ran headlines questioning Ronald's priorities and motives. "This is what Haley would have wanted," Misty told reporters after the ceremony, a statement that shocked many as both inappropriate and bizarre. How could a kindergartner have formed opinions about her father marrying his teenage girlfriend while search efforts were still actively underway? The comment only fueled public outrage that was already burning white hot. Law enforcement officials privately theorized that the rushed marriage might serve as a calculated legal maneuver. Marriage would grant spousal privilege, potentially shielding either from testifying against the other should charges be filed. Others suspected Ronald feared legal consequences for his relationship with the underage Misty if scrutiny intensified around the family. Instead of remaining in Florida to assist with the ongoing search efforts, the newlyweds jetted off to New York City the very next day. Their destination wasn't a honeymoon suite, but rather the set of NBC's Today Show. The optics were damning. A father prioritizing media appearances over ground searches for his missing child.
Are with us exclusively this morning. Good morning to you both. Thank you for joining us. Ronald, your daughter Haley disappeared a little over a month ago, and since then you've spoken to the media, you've taken a polygraph test, both of you have, opened up your home, what was your home, to us to see where Haley lived, give us a better sense of her. None of that could have been easy for either one of you. So why did you want to come here today? What are you hoping to accomplish, Ronald, today?
To get the focus back on my daughter is missing. My 5-year-old girl is gone, and I want to find her.
Where do you think the focus has changed when you say get the focus back on her?
I think they've changed to my personal life and being married and everything else when they should be focusing on my 5-year-old daughter.
Do you think the police have done an adequate job searching for her, Ronald? Are you comfortable with the job they have done so far?
So far,
You are?
yes.
Have they said anything to you about any possible leads at all? Nothing. Michelle just referenced your son, your 4-year-old son, and the fact that he said that somebody, a man dressed in black, had taken Haley out of the trailer that night she disappeared. Did he tell that to either one of you? Misty, you were there at the time. Did he say anything to you at the time?
Mm-mm.
Nothing?
Nope.
Me either.
No.
I think this is some of the garbage that Geraldo and Crystal, the mother's, made up, but I'm just going to leave that at that.
Oh, so you don't even believe that Ronald Jr. said this at all?
I don't know. I wasn't at home. I was at work.
You were.
I can't tell you honestly.
You were there, Misty, and I know when Ronald just said that the focus has been removed from his daughter, a little girl that you also care very deeply for, to other people. A lot of the focus has now been on you and the police saying that you walked out of a meeting they were having with you, walked away. Why? What happened? You stopped talking. Tell us what happened. Something must have upset you.
There was a new guy that was new to the case, and I didn't feel comfortable with him. He was just being very rude to me. And I told John Merchant and the state attorneys I would talk to them, but I wasn't going to talk to the other guy.
What was he doing? What was he saying?
He was just, like, being rude, like yelling and pretty much telling me I'm a liar.
So he was accusing you of lying to him.
Yeah.
Let's go back
After
through.
past polygraphs.
After passing.
You both clear. They said to you, you have passed the polygraph test.
Absolutely.
I think part of the problem has been, Misty, that there has been a certain number of inconsistencies, or what's perceived to be inconsistencies, because you first said that Haley was in bed with you, then you said she was on the mattress next to you. This is an opportunity to clarify it. You've had time to think through what happened that night. Can you walk us through it one more time, Misty, your best recollection of what happened the night Haley disappeared?
Well, I put her to bed at 8 o'clock. I was washing my our blankets, and after that was done, I put her blanket over her. She was sleeping when I put her blanket on her.
Was she in the bed?
She was in her bed.
Her bed.
In her bed, and Junior was in the bed with me. And it was about, I don't know what time, about 10 o'clock, I finally lay down and went to sleep. And I woke up at 3, and I noticed, I got up to use the bathroom, and I noticed the kitchen light was on, so I walked to the kitchen, and that's when I seen the back door open. So I ran back to my bedroom to grab my phone to call Ronald, and that's when I noticed Haley was gone.
And so you called Ronald, and then Ronald, did you come home?
I was pulling
He
in
was
the
pulling in
driveway.
the driveway.
At shortly after 3 o'clock in the morning, you're saying?
Yeah, I was pulling in the driveway just home from my shift at work.
So why were there, help me out, Misty, why were there inconsistencies? Why did you say one thing one time and one time the other? One thing the other?
I don't know.
But you know you did do that,
Yeah,
and you're not sure why.
no.
And then yesterday, you guys got married. In the midst of all this, why was that an important thing, Ronald, for you to do?
I don't know. I think that my little girl would have wanted it. I would have rather her have been there. So obviously, when we get her back, we will do a much larger, better wedding. But we're just that's still drawing the focus off of Haley. We need to be focused on Haley and not what I'm doing in my personal life.
But can you understand why some people might be confused by it, or do you accept that, or?
I don't understand why it's anybody else's business, to be honest with you. It's nobody's business what I do in my personal life. I go to work. I support my family. I don't know what my personal life has to do with national TV. My daughter is missing. That's what has to do with national TV. We need to get my daughter's face back on TV and get her found.
The marriage divided the Satsuma community. Local residents who initially rallied around Ronald began questioning his sincerity. Search volunteers who spent weeks trudging through swamps felt betrayed by what appeared to be a callous disregard for finding Haley. Even Ronald's supporters struggled to justify the wedding timing. If intended as protection, the marriage proved remarkably short-lived. By October of 2009, just 7 months after their vows, Ronald filed for divorce. Court documents cited irreconcilable differences, but those close to the investigation suggested a far more troubling catalyst. As the search for Haley continued without success, Ronald's attorneys later revealed that doubts had grown in his mind. The inconsistencies in Misty's accounts, her failed polygraphs, and her refusal to participate in investigative procedures gradually eroded whatever trust had prompted the hasty marriage. According to Ronald's legal representatives, as time passed without finding Haley, he began seriously questioning if Misty was lying about what she knew about that night. The crumbling marriage between Ronald and Misty wasn't the only relationship that would be destroyed in the wake of Haley's disappearance. Imagine having your entire life derailed because your relatives decided you'd make a convenient scapegoat for a missing child. For Joe Overstreet, this nightmare became a reality when Misty suddenly remembered what happened to Haley, but only after she was facing serious drug charges herself. Joe Overstreet was Misty's cousin from Tennessee, who had been visiting Florida when Haley vanished. Investigators initially cleared him of suspicion after stopping his vehicle at a checkpoint as he left Florida the day after her disappearance, finding nothing suspicious. But in April 2010, more than a year later, Misty and her brother Tommy crafted an astonishing new story from behind bars. Facing decades in prison on drug trafficking charges, they became desperate to bargain their way to leniency. Like drowning swimmers willing to push others under to save themselves, they reached for their cousin Joe. Their story, which investigators would later dub the machine gun theory, claimed Joe had come to Ronald's trailer that fateful night, searching for Ronald's machine gun. According to their tale, when Joe couldn't find the weapon, he became enraged, grabbing Haley, stuffing her into a black bag, and disposed of her in the St. Johns River, weighing her body down with concrete. Law enforcement took the accusation seriously enough to launch a major 3-day search operation into the river with Misty present. They brought her from jail to search the site, hoping she could guide them to Haley's remains. During the search, Misty broke down in tears as divers scoured the murky waters, her apparent distress convincing some investigators they might finally be uncovering the truth. Their hopes collapsed when Misty admitted on the return trip to jail that she had fabricated the entire river story. Tommy likewise eventually confessed to inventing his version. Both siblings admitted concocting the accusations against Joe, hoping for leniency in their drug cases. One investigator noted in official documents, it became obvious that Misty Crosland and Tommy Crosland were attempting to provide information which may have been beneficial to gain them consideration on their pending drug charges. For Joe, the false accusations proved devastating. He became the target of public suspicion and harassment, receiving death threats while job opportunities evaporated. Relationships with extended family members were irreparably damaged. Even after being officially cleared, the cloud of suspicion followed him like a shadow. Facing reporters after being publicly identified, Joe defended himself. "I've got kids too. I've never hurt a child. I'm being accused of something I didn't do." His attorney emphasized Joe's cooperation. Mr. Overstreet has cooperated with law enforcement from day one. He has voluntarily submitted to questioning multiple times and has even agreed to polygraph examinations. He has never been charged because there is no evidence connecting him to Haley's disappearance. The fabricated accusations revealed how far the Crosland siblings would go to save themselves, willing to sacrifice even their own family member to potentially spend decades in prison for a crime he didn't commit. After watching the Croslands throw their own cousin under the bus, investigators decided to change tactics entirely. What if the key to solving Haley's disappearance wasn't through traditional detective work, but through an elaborate undercover operation that would catch her family in a completely different kind of crime? The drug bust that followed would change everything, just not in the way authorities had hoped. In January of 2010, nearly a year after Haley vanished, Putnam County investigators launched Operation Anything for Money, an ambitious undercover drug sting targeting Misty Crosland, Ronald Cummings, and their inner circle. Detectives traded their badges for street clothes, meeting suspects in dimly lit parking lots and rundown motel rooms. With recording devices hidden and backup teams stationed nearby, they carefully documented every transaction while building cases against the prime suspects in Haley's disappearance. This was always about finding Haley, Detective John Merchant later admitted to reporters. Law enforcement believed someone facing serious prison time might finally trade the truth for leniency. Every pill purchase brought them closer to the moment they hoped that would break the case wide open. During tense exchanges that left officers wondering if their covers might be blown, they discovered Misty's surprising role in the local drug trade. Far from being a peripheral figure, she emerged as the central player in a prescription drug trafficking network. Undercover officers watched as Misty personally handled hundreds of oxycodone and hydrocodone pills worth thousands of dollars, participating in every single transaction.
They're all in 10 packs. There's 100. Yep. That should be 10 in each one. Yep. So just whenever. I mean, it's going to take a couple days for you to get rid of 200 of them now. Well, I've got 2 weeks to play with, dude. So, I mean, you know, 2 weeks, whatever. Okay. I'll get it for you, no problem. 2 weeks I can make the money to pay for them and eat them myself. Right. Hang on. Hey, do me a favor.
On January 20th, 2010, police simultaneously arrested 5 people: Misty, Ronald, Tommy Crosland, Donna Brock, a former search volunteer who later befriended Misty, and Hope Sykes, Ronald's cousin. At the press conference, the sheriff's office displayed their mugshots, alongside seized drugs and the $4,000 in cash used in the undercover buys. Sheriff Jeff Hardy addressed the reporters with clear purpose. We're hoping through these arrests and these people facing prison time that someone will come forward and tell us the truth about what happened to Haley. Someone knows what happened to this little girl. The consequences came swiftly. Judge Terry LaRue handed down staggering sentences throughout 2010. Misty received 25 years, while Ronald and Tommy each received 15 years. Hope Sykes and Donna Brock both each received 15-year sentences as well. Yet, even facing a quarter century behind bars, Misty maintained her original story about Haley's disappearance. In a 2011 jailhouse interview, she presented a new theory, claiming Mexicans had taken Haley as payment for Ronald's drug debts. This contradicted all of her previous statements, and investigators found no evidence to support it.
I just feel like I need to, speak my mind. There's nothing new. I just want to get my side out there because everybody's against me, it seems like, and I'm not. That's not what it should be like. I'm in here prison over some stuff that I shouldn't even be here for. It just seems like people are forgetting about her. Obviously, the police aren't doing anything. So I just feel like they're not doing anything. We put Haley on the bus. You know, we did everything we were supposed to do. Ronald brought Haley home. I cooked dinner. I gave her baths. We played. Then we lay down and went to sleep. And then I woke up I don't know why I woke up. I woke up and the kitchen light was on. And I ran to the bathroom. I ran to the kitchen to see what was going on. I thought maybe Ronald was home. He wasn't there. So I ran to my room to get my cell phone to call him. He wouldn't answer his phone over 20 times. Turn around and she's not in her bed. So I'm running around the house freaking out because she's not in her bed, she's not nowhere in the house. And then 5 minutes later, Ronald was pulling down the driveway and he didn't even really look like he was upset. He just looked like he was more messed up on drugs. And when I called him, like 20 or 30 times I called him, he didn't answer the phone. And then the police come. It has nothing to do with me. I think they were trying to get it back at Ronald, whoever did this. See, what I was told that Ronald used to sell drugs a lot before we got together, and he owed people money. See, one day we were at this bar, it was his family-owned bar, and I was sitting in the truck. I got out of the truck and started to walk up to Ronald, and this black man was talking to him. And Ronald's like, I need you to go sit back in the truck. I said, why? Why can't I hear? And the black man said that he knows where Haley is, the Mexicans have her, and if Ronald pays this much money back, then he'd go get her on Friday. And that was a long time ago. I don't know who would have took her. I don't understand why they would have took her. It just doesn't make sense to me. I guess I could talk about the abuse that Ronald gave to us. All of us, me, Haley, and Junior went through abuse with him. He was always messed up on pills. He used to beat us all the time. If the kids would get in trouble and I would tell him to stop, like he smacked his son in the face and I got mad at him. I said, don't do that. He started bleeding. He laughed about it. And I got beat up for it because I stuck up for the kids all the time. You know, I had them kids 24/7. I took care of them kids. I gave them baths, took them to school, fed them, done everything with them. Their family didn't do anything. And they're out here putting blame on somebody that they shouldn't be putting blame on, when all I try to do is be a mother figure to them kids because they didn't have a mother. And it hurts me to walk around here every day and just knowing that the police even think that.
By 2013, the case had gone cold. The Florida Department of Law Enforcement reclassified it from a missing persons case to a homicide investigation, though no charges were filed in connection with her disappearance. At the 10th anniversary press conference in 2019, Putnam County officials revealed their working theory. Haley had accidentally ingested drugs while inadequately supervised. In a panic, whoever was responsible disposed of her body rather than seeking medical help. We believe the people that know what happened to Haley were either at the residence that night or became involved afterwards. Sheriff DeLoach stated the answers are out there. All we need is for someone to find the courage to come forward and tell us what they know. Today, the case of Haley Cummins remains suspended in painful limbo. Her great-grandmother still holds on to the hope that someone will eventually speak up about what truly happened that February night in 2009. Despite a petition to reopen the investigation, the truth remains buried beneath years of inconsistent statements and dead ends. As of April 2025, the case of Haley Cummins, who disappeared in February of 2009 at the age of 5, remains unsolved. In September of 2024, the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children released an age-progressed image depicting what Haley might look like at 21 years old, aiming to renew public awareness and generate new leads. The Putnam County Sheriff's Office continues to treat her disappearance as an active investigation and encourages anyone with information to come forward. Misty Crosland, who was babysitting Haley the night she went missing, was convicted in 2011 on multiple counts of drug trafficking. She received a 25-year prison sentence, which she is currently serving. Her projected release date is June 17, 2031. Authorities have previously indicated that Crosland may possess crucial information regarding Haley's disappearance, but no new developments have been reported in this regard. Ronald Cummings, Haley's father, was released from prison in October of 2022 after serving 12 years for drug trafficking charges unrelated to his daughter's disappearance. However, his legal troubles continued. On Christmas Day in 2022, he was arrested by Putnam County, Florida, on multiple charges, including battery on a law enforcement officer, trafficking oxycodone, and resisting an officer with violence. In November 2024, Cummings pleaded no contest to these charges. Additionally, in September of 2024, he faced 15 charges of sexual exploitation of a minor in Tennessee. As of April 2025, Cummings remains incarcerated, awaiting further legal proceedings related to these charges. The investigation into Haley Cummings' disappearance remains open, and law enforcement continues to seek information that could lead to resolving the case. The haunting absence of a little girl who deserved protection echoes through Satsuma to this day. Will someone finally break their silence, or will Haley's disappearance remain forever unsolved? Justice perpetually out of reach. What dark truth lies at the heart of Haley Cummings' story? Hey, thank you for joining me in yet another odd mystery. My name is Vince. If you enjoyed this story, you might also be interested in the story of the missing Hoggle children. You'll find the link to that story in the upper right corner of your screen. Your support helps keep these stories alive, giving the affected families the hope they seek. So don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe if you haven't already done so. And for those who'd like to further support the channel, be sure to check out our online store for exclusive merch and more. I appreciate you. Thank you.